Welcome everyone. Hello and welcome to today's BJA Introduction to BJA Performance Measures and Reporting Training. My name is Gabriela Castellanos and I am the TTA specialist on the BJA Planning, Performance and Impact team. We are so happy that you have joined us today and excited to present this information as you get into the January submission period. For your awareness, this session is being recorded and will be posted on the BJA YouTube and BJA multimedia pages. Today we're going to have presentations by the BJA Planning, Performance and Impact team. Again, this session is being recorded and a copy of the presentation slides will be given to all participants following this training. If you experience any technical difficulties during this session, you can reach out to my colleague, Angela Beebe, via private chat message. You can also email her at angela.beebe@usdoj.gov. I wanted to stress that the chat is meant for communication from us to you and for any technical difficulties you experience. But if you have a question about the content of today's training, I will show you how to do so a little later on in our slides. Again, we encourage you to ask questions as they arise throughout the presentation. However, please note that for today's session, given the volume of participants and interest, we will only be taking questions directly through the Q&A function. To submit a question, please use the Q&A function on the bottom right hand of the screen. We will answer questions as they come in, but for more complex questions or for those that require additional explanation, we will address that at the end during the open Q&A portion, or we will follow up with you via email. We will also send out the presentation in a PDF form, like I mentioned before. If you still have questions or you think that you need additional help, we can provide you with one-on-one training sessions. And then once again, the chat box will be used by panelists to share links and resources with you, the participants. To give you a brief agenda of what we're doing today, this training is a part of a larger training series offered by BJA for grantees. These trainings help support grantees with information they need to effectively manage their grants. And today we are talking about performance measures and the component of them during your grants, but you can take a look at the link shared on this screen for other trainings being offered to help you with your grant management. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to our presenters, some, but not all, members of the Planning, Performance, and Impact team. The Bureau of Justice Assistance, PPI team, provides wraparound training and technical assistance on data collection and analysis, support to grantees and federal staff from program inception to closeout. Our presenting team consists of our Planning, Performance, and Impact manager, Sarah DeBouche-Sherrill, and PPI Project Task Lead, Eric Smith, who are responsible for team management and client coordination. And then there is the training and technical assistance team consisting of Angela Beebe and me. And we help develop and conduct trainings for grantees and federal staff similar to this training. And we respond to user help desk inquiries and requests for coaching. Next is a more fleshed out idea of our agenda. We will start with an overview of performance management at BJA. We will then go over data reporting requirements. We will explore some common challenges and recommend best practices when reporting, and then we will provide some helpful resources to wrap up with our question and answer portion. I will now hand it over to PPI Project Task Lead, Eric Smith, to go over performance management at BJA. Take it away, Eric.
Thanks, Gabriela, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'll now get into performance management, and we'll talk about this in the context of BJA. So performance management at BJA involves the process by which programs and grantees regularly collect data on their grant activities. Using performance measures helps determine whether they're implementing activities as intended and achieving their desired goals and objectives. It also helps capture outputs and outcomes over time and enables pre- and post comparisons that can be used to assess change. The performance measures and resulting data supports analysis to identify trends, patterns, and insights that can inform program decisions and improvements, and to demonstrate the success of your grant activities in compliance to regulations. You can find additional information and several resources on the OJP Performance Measurement Progress Reporting Information portal on the BJA Performance website listed. So now we'll get into why does BJA use performance measures? Well, one, we use those to understand how funds are being distributed. BJA and OJP regularly track progress toward goals and develop various reports using annual key performance indicators. We also track grant activity and progress towards those program goals and helps BJA to enable us to respond to external data requests and data calls such as congressional inquiries or media requests. And lastly, it helps us identify areas of success and potential areas of improvements. Performance measures help to identify the needs for training and technical assistance, as Gabriella has mentioned, that we provide, or revisions to program design or implementation. And lastly, BJA uses performance measures to comply with the law and complete BJA's required reporting. The tracking of progress through performance measurement is required by various legislative acts, such as the Government Performance and Results Modernization Act of 2010, or GPRA, that some of you may be familiar with, as well as many others. Some data is also required to be reported on to various government agencies and to Congress, or in response to Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests. So how does BJA use data? Well, for one purpose, we use these to develop performance reports, and these are snapshots that highlight program accomplishments and success of your grant programs. We encourage grantees to check these out on our website. You'll see ones developed in years past. We're in the process of developing more now, so please check back and take a look at those as they come out in your respective programs. We also use data to support data requests, and I mentioned this a bit earlier, but we get many types of requests. It could be internal BJA inquiries, to those congressional requests, to those FOIA requests. And lastly, we use it to inform funding programs and TTA decisions. Results inform budget, strategic planning, and future funding, and it helps inform BJA's priorities, notice of funding opportunities, and those informational resources and guides that our TTA team provides. So now you may be wondering, what are the benefits to yourself as a grantee? So there's many benefits to your organization and for your program. First, by systematically monitoring performance measures, using your own data can help you identify what's working well and what might need to change. This helps you make data-driven decisions to manage and improve your grant program. Additionally, the data you provide allows BJA to provide that targeted training and technical assistance and resources to grantees that need it most. And that performance measurement data can also be used as evidence that you are meeting your goals. And we'll touch on this a little bit more later. This can help you with your program sustainability and help you advocate for additional resources for your program. We'll now spend some time more specifically discussing the data reporting requirements, covering the what, the where, the when, and the how of reporting data. We'll review each of these in more detail next. So first, looking at what data do I report. The performance measures for your grant program can be found at the link on the screen, and the link, I'm sure that's about to be dropped into the chat, or by searching BJA Program Performance Measures. BJA has established performance measures. We like to call them questionnaires, so you'll see that thrown around a lot as we're talking or on the website for each of the grant programs. These measures were included in the original solicitation, or if you've been responding towards more recently, called Notice of Funding Opportunities that you have been responding to. We strongly encourage you to become familiar with the performance measures before you report for the first time. And periodically, programs may update their performance measures. However, if that does happen, our team will provide notice and plenty of training opportunities in the event that your measures were updated, so they hopefully do not come as any surprise. The questionnaires are a great resource to use as a guide to track relevant data and for you to help figure out how you want to track your data. And that could be your collection, that could be the time intervals that make sense. Some people do it at the end, some people do it periodically throughout the reporting time frame. So whatever works for your program. And if you're newer to an award and trying to figure out how this all works and you have questions on that, we're happy to help you navigate that, help connect you with others who have been doing this for a long time and have established processes that work well for them. So then when it is time to report, you can add those figures and get your reporting period totals easy. So now you're probably thinking, what data do I report? So every program has a structured set of questions, and there are 3 general sections of questions and data that you will report on: general award administration, project specific, and narrative questions. Now, this will vary slightly from program to program, but as a general layout, this is kind of the structure that most of the questionnaires, most of the performance measures follow. When the grant is ending, grantees may also answer additional closeout questions, which are a series of questions grantees will only need to respond to when activities have been completed and the grant is ending. We'll dive a bit more into each of these sections now. So for the General Award Administration, this captures information on grant activity during the period. If there was no grant activity, there are still specific questions and responses that we would like you to answer. Generally, this is a brief section and sets up the rest of your reporting for that reporting period. Moving into the project-specific questions, which is a bulk of your performance measures or your questionnaire. Each program has questions that are customized to their program, so please refer back to your specific questionnaire, which you can find on the website in multiple locations. Questions in this section range in topics within each program and cover a wide range of areas depending on your program, such as planning, training, partnership, among many others. On your right, you'll see an example snippet of a question from a program questionnaire, just to give you a sense of how the questionnaire can look if you have never looked at them before. One thing I will note is that your questionnaire at times may be slightly different than what you see in the systems you are reporting in, which is PMT and JustGrants, and we have a whole section on that coming up here shortly. But depending on the questions and the type of response to a specific question, that may or may not trigger additional questions within the system. So if you're looking at your questionnaire and there's 46 questions and you're looking at your report in one of the systems and you see fewer questions than that, that may be because you answered no to a specific question and did not have to answer the subsequent follow-on questions from there. So just one thing to keep in mind as you're going through your reporting period and filling out your questionnaire and reports. And then lastly, the final section, generally grantees are required is to complete the narrative questions in January, July, and at the close of their award. In the narrative section, grantees can highlight their accomplishments and discuss their challenges. And we'll dive into responding to narrative questions a bit more on the next slide now. So in responding to those narrative questions, grantees should include a description of their program goals when responding to accomplishments and challenge questions. We have provided an example on the slide for us to walk through. If a grantee has more than one goal, each goal should be listed with a corresponding accomplishment and challenge. Please feel free to number the goals and the corresponding accomplishments and challenges to keep track of those, but you may be listing more than one goal or more than one challenge within a specific response question. So for example, on this slide, the first narrative question, which reads, what were your accomplishments, including any progress made towards achieving your grant-funded program goals during the reporting period? The grantee's response should restate their program goals followed by the accomplishment particular goal. And looking at the second question, grantees again should restate their goal and then state the challenge that corresponds with the goal to make sure everyone is on the same page with which goals they are. Again, if you used a numbering system, that can work as well. So just please keep that in mind as you're filling out your narrative questions. Again, those are done in the January, so this reporting period, and July reporting period times. So we talked about your goals. We spent a little bit of time here talking about defining your goals and objectives. And when defining those, it is important to write well-defined goals and objectives to clarify your priorities and highlight criteria for success from the very beginning. So a heads up for any of the new grantees who may be on with us today, who still may be working on finalizing these goals with their grant or grant manager. Some things to just keep in mind as you go about doing that. So we like to use the SMART mnemonic, which walks users through important dimensions of a good goal or objective. And you'll see here they should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So under the specific, we'll state exactly what your program wants to accomplish or will accomplish. Measurable, determine what evidence will be used to indicate progress, and if needed, break large goals into smaller, measurable goals to make it easier to measure progress. I think that's an important one. Sometimes there's a lot of great things that our grantees and programs are trying to do, but we want to make sure that we're defining these goals in a way that we can make measurable progress over the award period for that grant. Or thirdly, achievable, making sure your goal is reasonable and can be accomplished within a certain time frame. If it's too lofty, try to evaluate and again break it down into something that may be more manageable. Realistic, goals should be relevant to your program and to the objectives of the larger BJA grant program. And lastly, timely, goals should have a realistic deadline to keep tasks and activities on track. It's good practice to review and reevaluate your goals semi-annually, determine if changes are necessary, and to assess your progress. Make sure to use data to describe how you are doing, as well as anecdotes that may describe the good work you are doing and its impact. This is something that we look at. We have a whole team that helps review the data, and those are some of the things that get highlighted sometime in the program reports that we develop. We want to make sure we're capturing the good information that everyone is doing, or the good work everyone is doing, and translating that back out to everyone else to see the successes of the program and the grants. So we'll take, I think, one more slide here, looking at the SMART goals and an example walking through that. I'm going to read through an example goal here. Every member of XYZ department will complete training on responding to individuals experiencing a mental health crisis semi-annually to increase competence and confidence in responding to those mental health crises. So walking through the mnemonic here, specific, what is specific here? We're talking about every member of the department. Measurable, in this case, what are the parameters? And this is 100%. We're talking about every member here. Again, this is something that you'll need to think about in your own organization or program. For another group, that may be 80%. It may not be realistic for it to be 100%, but just as an example, you kind of want to set a measurable target that is achievable, which is obviously the next one. Is that something that is feasible for everyone to do within a program, or is that a different cadence that may be more reasonable and achievable for your program? Realistic, is the training beneficial? It is reasonable to expect that completing this training will help increase the confidence and competence in the subject area. So it's just something to think about as you're developing your goals. And then in this case, what is the time frame? And it's clearly spelled out here, semi-annually as well, semi-annually for how this will be tracked. So again, this is just an example. Again, for every organization, this may look different depending on the other resources that you have and your goals for your specific grant program. So I'll now turn it back over to Gabriella to talk about where to report on this data.
Thanks, Eric. All right, so BJA has two online schools, or tools, excuse me, to facilitate performance measurement reporting. We have the performance measurement tool, otherwise known as the PMT, and then we have the Just Grant system. The reporting process varies depending on what your grant is, and I will get further into that with our slides coming up next. On the left is a list of award programs that report just into Just Grants, and on the right is grant awards that report solely into the PMT system, or report into PMT and upload in Just Grants. Please note that some program awards and the reporting requirements vary by fiscal year. For the PMT, the exception is the DNA Capacity Enhancement and Backlog Reduction, otherwise known as CBER, program, and BJA Post-Conviction, which report semi-annually, and the listed programs report quarterly to PMT. I want you to know that on each side of this slide for both Just Grant and PMT, the programs are listed alphabetically, so hopefully that'll help you locate your program. But if you are still confused on where to report, I understand that there are a lot of programs mentioned. please do not hesitate to contact the PMT help desk and they can help you locate your award information. So I'm going to pause right here just to give all attendees a second or two to find their grant. But yes, I cannot stress this enough. I know that there are a lot of awards, a lot of programs. Please do not hesitate to contact us or the help desk team to help you locate your award and figure out where it reports. All right, I see some thumbs up, so thank you to those attendees who have found their award and congratulations. But yeah, we're gonna continue on to get into reporting requirements. Okay, so here is the reporting schedule for PMT reporting. Note that some reporting requirements vary by reporting period, like I mentioned before, post-conviction and CBER are different. Reporting periods within January 30th and July 30th deadline require narrative questions and a Just Grants upload. The only time that these requirements would go outside of those dates would be if you were filling out the last report of your award. This report requires performance measures, narrative questions, closeout questions, and then an upload to Just Grants. Here is where I'm going to do a little demo of the PMT system to hopefully get grantees a little more comfortable with the system that they're using. My colleague Angela is also going to post some resources that you can use, but give me a second, take a look at those resources while I pull up the PMT. Okay. All right, and if I could just get a verbal confirmation from one of my colleagues that they can see my screen, I will continue with my demo.
You're good.
All right, thanks, Angela. All right, so welcome to the Performance Measurement Tool, otherwise known as the PMT. This platform works best in the Chrome and Edge browsers. This is an information system that is provided by the U.S. government and is for U.S. government authorized use only. Unauthorized or improper use of this system may result in disciplinary action and civil and criminal penalties. So to access your award page, you are first going to need to log in using your email address and your password. If you've forgotten your password or your username, or if you're unsure whether you've been added to your PMT's account, do not worry. Simply contact the PMT help desk. They can help you reset your password or add you as a user to your awards PMT account. Once you've successfully logged in, you'll be directed to the PMT landing page. This page shows access to all PMT systems you hold awards with, such as OVC or OJJDP. So while my page contains those systems, this may not be the same. You may only have one PMT system over the other. And for the purposes of this training, of course, we will only be exploring the BJA PMT system. So from here, you're going to want to click on BJA PMT, that option to access your profile page. Now you're on the profile page. Note that there are multiple accordion menus, which can be opened by clicking like so. You're going to click under the grantee organization menu and choose the award and organization associated with the award that you wish to edit. After selecting your organization, you will be taken to the Program Award landing page. This page has two key sections. You'll have a calendar with important reporting dates and deadlines. You'll also see resources specific to your award program, such as resource guides, training materials, and one-pagers to help you navigate your tasks. I want to mention to please be aware that the session will time out 30 minutes after you stop saving your data. So to avoid re-entering data, click the Save button before leaving the system unattended or when you've finished entering your data. We're now going to go to the Profile tab. This section contains contact information, which is updated every 3 months via JustGrants that was entered by your entity administrator. If any of the details need to be updated, please contact your entity administrator, or you can go to JustGrants to ensure that that info is correct. While you cannot edit contact info on the PMT, you do have control over adding and managing users for your account. So to do this, you will click on the Manage Users button. This will take you to a list of users associated with your organization. To manage users, if you want to delete a user, you can click the highlighted delete button next to the user's information, or to add a new user, you can click add new user. And this will take you to a form where you can fill in the user's first name, their last name, their email, and optionally their phone number. After you complete this form and hit save, an email will be sent to the new user with their login details. So now we're going to move to the awards page. And give it a second as it loads. This is a pretty big test profile. However, I will mention these tabs will vary depending on if you are a primary grantee with subgrantees, or a subgrantee. Both tabs contain awards associated with your organization. However, primary grantees will have 2 tabs for awards, with one option to select and view primary grantee awards, and one option to select manage subrecipients to view, edit, add, or delete subrecipients from their profile. Under federal awards, or for subrecipients, it'll just be labeled awards. You'll see the most recent reporting periods along with their status. If the report for a period has been completed, you will see that. To view older reporting periods, simply click View All Reporting Periods to access your historical data. After the awards tabs, there will be a reports tab. This is a page where you can select current and past completed reports to download and then upload to JustGrants, as well as download for your own records. You can download reports by reporting period, federal award number, data display, and format. A common user error is thinking that this is the tab where you report for the current reporting period. However, this tab, the reports tab, is solely meant as a filing system for your past awards. If you ever need assistance, the help page is your go-to tab. You'll find contact information specific to your award program. However, I will stress this again, for any general PMT related inquiries, please contact the PMT help desk. Their email address will be provided at the end of this training. It will also be in the training slides, and then for your reference at the bottom of every page on the PMT, their number and their email will be listed at the bottom of the page. Once you are finished with your reporting, or if you need to access another organization such as OVC or OJJDP, you can log out simply by clicking Log Out. And I wanted to mention again, the system will log you out after 30 minutes of inactivity. However, it is best to practice logging out of any screen on the PMT when you are not using it. This will prevent any login loops that you could possibly encounter, as well as protect your information. That's an overview of the PMT platform. Thank you. I will return to the rest of our presentation, so give me a second. All right. So do not worry, there are plenty of resources for JustGrants located in your JustGrants portal, as well as for your convenience, we are listing the reporting deadlines for JustGrants users. But again, there will be trainings hosted by the JustGrants team to help JustGrantees help and access the Just Grants system. There will also be performance reporting training at the end of this month to help new grantees get associated with the platforms that they need to use. So to wrap up this section, I just wanted to recap. There are two systems, there's two schools of reporting for all grantees. There's Just Grantee reporting or Just Grants reporting, which is semi-annual in January and July. And then there is PMT reporting, which is quarterly or semi-quarterly, depending on your program. And you upload your reports semi-annually into Just Grants. And yeah, again, if you are confused where your program or award reports to, contact the PMT help desk. I'm now going to hand it over to the PPI manager, Sarah DeBouche-Sherrill, to go over some common challenges and best practices. Take it away, Sarah.
Thanks, Gabriella. So yeah, we're going to talk about some of the challenges that come up most frequently and some things you can do to be helping make sure the data is as accurate and helpful as possible. So first, let's talk about why the data quality is important. This grantee data supports a number of really important and critical things. So first of all, there is legislatively mandated reporting that is a part of the funding for these programs. It helps inform federal budgets. We use this to answer questions coming from legislators. There are public statistics that need to be reported. This has been used to testify before Congress. We can also use this to help identify what are some promising things happening in the field currently and think about what could be explored for possibly future funding support or other technical assistance, things like that. And of course, it's also used for accountability to make sure that federal funds are being used responsibly. And I can't underscore enough that you all are the best people to identify if something is incorrect. You know your programs in and out, and you are the ones who can look at a number and say, that looks a little low, or that is way too high. Let's double check that. And so we really rely on you all to be our front lines for making sure that the data quality is high. In terms of reporting, there are a few challenges that we've seen come up that we just wanted to touch on today. So first of all, there can be a challenge where you may not already be collecting some of the data that BJA is asking. I want to emphasize that this is a requirement of the grant, so it is a compliance issue. So we are really asking everyone to try their hardest to report all of the pieces of data that are being requested. And that's why that we do share those at the time of the solicitations or notice of funding so that you can see what will be required. If you take a look at everything and you try your best to set up these systems to collect all of the requested pieces of information, but when reporting comes around, there is something that you do not have yet, what we ask you do is to enter 9999 into that field and then put an explanation into one of the open-ended questions to let us know why you don't have that piece of data yet and what you're doing to try to make sure you have that for the next reporting period. But we really do want everyone to try their best, take a look at the questionnaires, as Eric had mentioned earlier, and try to figure out what systems you need to put in place so that you will have that data when it comes time for reporting. Another common challenge is when you have projects that are funded through multiple awards. So this could be multiple BJA awards or multiple federal awards, not necessarily just within BJA, or even a combination of federal, state, foundation awards. But anytime you have a project that is funded across multiple sources like that, it's really important to make sure that you're not duplicating what you're reporting. So we only want things counted once. If, for instance, you have a project that serves 100 clients and is funded by 2 different awards, we don't want you putting 100 clients are being served for each of those awards. So we don't want to double count those people. And there are some different ways to go about doing this. One example of a way to address this is you could make it proportional to the amount of funding. So in that situation, for instance, if that project is funded 40% from BJA funds, then you could take that proportion and say, okay, we're going to report 40% of our clients as being served under this BJA award. And that's just one approach. Something else may make more sense depending on your particular situation. And you can work with our team to figure out what's the best strategy there. But the most important thing to know is just that we want to avoid that double counting of activities or outcomes, any of those things that we're asking for. Another common challenge is when you have subrecipients reporting, and if your program is reporting into the PMT, this allows for subrecipients to directly report into the system through multiple user accounts linked to that award. And we just want to make sure that people know that in those situations, when you have the subrecipients reporting directly, the responsibility of accurate data still falls on the prime grantee. So you want to make sure to be reviewing what they are submitting and making sure that that looks correct to you before you submit your report to BJA. We also have some programs that have additional reporting requirements. So for instance, some programs, they need to provide some supplemental documentation for the data that they are reporting to BJA. Other programs may need to, outside of these reporting systems, share additional data with their grant managers, for instance. And if your program falls into any of those categories, you will find out about that from your program managers or at the program-specific orientation webinars for new grantees, and you'll be able to get those details there. We also want to make sure that you all know, anytime you're encountering any of these types of reporting challenges or other nuances or difficulties with this, our team is here to help. You don't have to figure this out on your own. We've seen a lot of things and worked with many agencies and jurisdictions to try to figure out the best strategies for complicated reporting challenges. So please just know that we're your partner in this and we can help you figure out the best way to move forward. When it comes to ensuring the data quality, there are some things that we ask of grantees to help out with this. So first of all, as we've mentioned a couple times now, just make sure you look at those questionnaires at the very beginning and come up with your plan for how to provide all those pieces of data. We also recommend that you designate a particular person to oversee the performance data collection for this grant, and that person can really become the expert, know exactly what's needed, and know how these reporting systems work. And we recommend that that individual attend all of the BJA trainings related to performance measurement. So, this one today, for instance, if that person is not here, this will be recorded. You'll be able to share it with them. But there also may be additional trainings throughout the life of your grant. And we hope that you will have that person attend so that they'll know of any developments related to the performance measures. And then in terms of some of those challenges I already talked about, just make sure that you are reviewing the data that subrecipients are submitting, and try to figure out how to avoid that double counting of reported data, either across awards and also between reporting periods. So you want to make sure if you already reported something in the last reporting period, that you know where that cutoff is, and so that you're not reporting it again for the next reporting period. We also have this data collection guide that we'll put a link to in the chat, and it has more general best practices around data collection, so that can also be helpful, particularly for anyone that this type of data collection will be new for you. In terms of our role for ensuring data quality, our team does perform quarterly checks of the data, and so we are looking for things like data that doesn't seem to logically fit together based on what's been reported, or if there's something that's an obvious error or a typo, or when you have numbers being reported that are drastically different from the past few reporting periods or drastically different from all the other grantees. These are things that we flag, and we may reach out to you all to make sure that that data is correct and see if there's anything we need to work out reporting wise. It's also important to be aware that the BJA grant managers sometimes are doing site visits. And on these site visits, they may examine your data tracking systems or ask for documentation to verify data that's been reported. And so we just want to make everyone aware that that could be another piece as well that comes into play for this. And then one of our most important roles is that we are supporting you all. So as mentioned, we are here for you, and we are happy to help and provide any guidance we can to try to make the reporting process as easy as we can. And related to that, I'm going to pass this back to Gabriella, who's going to share some of our resources for you and how you can contact us if you need to.
Thanks, Sarah. All right. So it's important to know which help desk to contact so that your issue. Oh, actually, I want to mention if none of this seemed relevant to you, we apologize as a wrong contact list was sent out by our comms team. However, if you've sticked out throughout this presentation, we're happy to have you. We hope that you've taken something out of it. But without further ado, I'm going to continue to resources for grantees in this training. Okay. So it's important to know which help desk to contact so that your issue can be resolved. You can contact the PMT help desk if you have questions about the following. Questions on performance measures, if you'd like to schedule a TTA session for staff on data collection, PMT reporting, or understanding performance measures. For PMT questions and account creations, to unlock previously submitted reports, or creating a semi-annual PMT report. You can contact the Just Grants help desk with the following: account creation in Just Grants, navigating Just Grants to find progress reports, unlocking accounts or help with passwords, roles and permissions for grant award administrator or entity administrator, error messages, or uploading and attaching documents. On this slide, there are a few websites that are worth bookmarking that you can go back to and reference. Specifically, I want to highlight the BJA Performance Measures webpage that has a lot of resources to help you report, as well as your performance measures. There are also various training videos on the BJA YouTube channel that may be useful to you as well.
For anyone who needs to jump, we just really thank you for being here today. Please feel free to reach out through thanks, Gabriella, that's great, through some of the ways we've listed, and take a look at those resources. And we will hang out here a minute in case there are more questions.